Okay. Just finished up a short game in succession. This is obviously kind of a filler type of game. I'd say probably takes about an hour. I don't know what they claim in the actual instructions. How long they say it's going to take. Not really clear here, but my guess is that if you sat down and played it, that's about what you get. Component-wise, cards are decent enough, a little flimsy, but they shuffle nicely, which is probably good enough for me. Counters, etc. are good. Nice little player aid cards for everybody, each one with their own specific advantage, and then tracks to keep things on. Game takes up a lot of table space for something this light. Between those and this board, for something that feels almost like about the same weight as a normal card game would. It's got some very interesting facets, though. The amount of deal making that's available in it is something that you don't usually see in these light games. You definitely see a lot of hunting the leader or whatever in this type of game. And this one clearly has that kind of situation, but it also has the situation where hunting the leader is clearly going to hurt you. For example, in that last turn, whatever people spent to stop the leader is money that they could not spend for their own victory bid. So there's that kind of balance. You can't let the first person win necessarily like we did, but it's tough to convince everybody to put enough money in. It's hard to judge. They could count up the money. They could make a guess on what kind of card he might have. Nobody had the killer and, prevent this from happening card. And even if they did, they might have said, let's see if we can get everybody to throw in their money this time, and again next time, and again, and prevent this from swinging in the wrong direction. Alternatively, though, if somebody had had a wad in their hand, they might have agreed. And this is where it's kind of sneaky. They could agree, hey, yeah, we'll stop him. And then taken the advantage themselves, especially over with the other player who could have won with Ariana. This really should be in the wrap rather than the review. But I have trouble keeping my thoughts separated and segmented into the right places. This is not my kind of game. I don't go out of my way usually for these lighter filler type games, but it's probably a good idea to have some in your collection, and this isn't a bad one. I have a small handful that I'd say I like a lot better, and I've got to teach myself to stop buying things like this. But, the Foglio art was really kind of a draw for me. I thought the game would be a little sillier than it is. Yes, the cards come with some silliness flavor to them. I'm having a hard time pulling this off. And the rules are actually written in kind of a humorous manner. The cards, the particular royal astrologer finds some disturbing signs in the stars. That's just pretty generic. But some of these are kind of funny in a very, very mild sort of way. There's certainly an attitude throughout the rules and throughout the game of kind of playing fun with this. It's not trying to be serious, that's certain, but it's also not, I don't think it manages to be quite as amusing as the pictures, etc., lead one to believe when you first look at it. It also doesn't add much to the game. It's not, a situation where you're going to be seeing funny combinations coming up and cool stuff like that. What you're going to be seeing is the play of the game itself, and you could actually pretty much drop most of the cutesy humor type stuff completely, and it would still be pretty much the same game. There might be a couple of points where somebody makes plays a card and it strikes them particularly funny and they laugh at it, but the fact is that it doesn't deliver maybe the level of humor that I was expecting given the cover and the appearance of it. It certainly made some attempts to, but I just don't think it managed it fully. For the play of the game itself, though, I think it manages very nicely. It's a kind of a bluffing and bidding and nice little mechanism for controlling. You not only want to push people who kind of like you, but you also want to set things up and make sure you get the right bids in at the time. Something falls in on it, though. Certainly in the two-player, when you play it, one person jumps to the lead and they're hard to stop. In this, it doesn't feel that way, but it feels like there are ways of kind of sneaking into the lead, pointing to someone else who jumps there maybe a little too fast, and being the next, or being the second or third person up into that kind of winner's circle. And people are still probably going to focus on the first couple targets because people don't really fall too far. It's just people are gonna stop them from getting further on in their endeavor to reach a point. Now, what we saw in my game, the Squire went nowhere. He doesn't have a great ability, but he also didn't get good cards. So I think the luck of the cards is a big factor in the play of this, and in a lot of these light games. So I'm kind of thinking of this in terms of, when we would play as a group, we would play something like Naval War sometimes at the end of an evening, and oh boy, did that game not excite me, right? Drawing cards for, can I get a smoke when I need it because there's a destroyer out, or can I get the shells that I need to fit? Can I just end up hitting someone and scoring some points? This plays much more naturally, feels more tied to what it's supposed to be about. And the fact that it can hold anything from 2 to 5 players, and I think it works well enough in 2, it's over like that, but it's not that much longer in a larger number of players. It's not necessarily over in the first couple plays of cards. In the 2-player game, it can really be over with a couple of good plays where you completely bamboozle your opponent and overplay him just slightly. He gets nothing and invests all his resources. You've invested yours too, but you're getting more back because you've been winning and you've driven his values down. In this, with 5 players, there's, you can't just control the game that way. But you can definitely knock people into a bad position, and you can also jump ahead to a better position. Jumping ahead probably will get you a big target on your back, though. But I do think that the third person in a 5-player game jumping into that lead, or the 4th person, or whatever, one of the later people getting into that same kind of winning position can hold their place and kind of keep a low profile because everybody's still saying, he's still right up there, and then sneak in a victory, maybe putting a little less resources in. When it comes down to it, though, the guy who won off of getting a good draw. He got a good point card. He had a card that would push things over. Things developed in a direction where his cards would work, and he took it. It might have failed. Had the other players worked together better, he wouldn't have been able to. And, there's sort of this, there's certainly luck in the game with the draw, etc., but there's also a factor of luck where there's bluffing, where there's player interactions that can't be completely predetermined. I see this in an XX game even, where you don't know maybe who the people you're playing with are, and if there's someone who doesn't know how to keep themselves from going bankrupt, that could change the whole flavor of the game. And there, you don't want to play an intricate game designed for the long run. You want to play the kind of brutal charge forward, get as much money as you can as fast as you can. Well, in this, what I think is kind of the luck factor is how much the other players are going to notice where you are. Can you hide the fact that you can win? You know, probably not on the last play, and I kind of made that very unlikely, but I think it would be very, very easy to sort of slip into a position as the second or third person getting up in there, where you can win without everybody noticing until you're about to win, and then it may be too late to stop you. They may have spent their resources already on something else. So that kind of pacing there, it's not exactly luck, but then when we go to the bluffing side, I put a card up, it's an important looking card. If I spend a lot of points on it and you don't, you've just made me spend a lot for this card. I may have gotten a deal from it, but you haven't gotten hosed. But if we both put up a lot, well, one of us is going to walk away without any value from that and have spent a lot for it. And that's kind of okay, depending on what cards you're holding, you may end up clashing. And you have that in poker too. You know, if two people are sitting at the table and they both have very good hands, well, one of them's going to win and the other one's going to lose, and the guy who loses is probably going to lose pretty big. And that's just sort of the nature of this. It's certainly not something that's comparable with poker in terms of the overall enjoyment for me, but some of the bluffing and just the position where you're not, it's not clear which way you're going. You know, you may be stopping a bid because you don't want to see someone pushed forward. On the other hand, you may be trying, whichever direction you're going in isn't even clear. Who's got the most votes is definitely an important factor, though. An important card out there, you've got to vote big on it, or just not vote, because you're not going to get away with a low vote, although we did see the one kind of sleaze at a low value. Anyway, it's an interesting little game. A lot cuter than a lot of filler games that I've seen, but it's hard for me to really like anything of this style. But it's okay enough.